Dinghai Fusheng Records, Extra Chapter. XTRA01, Xiang Shu Chapter. Youths don't know the taste of sorrow. I hope his heart will be as vast as the prairie of XTRA01 and as broad as the sky of the land beyond the Great Wall. In that case, let's call him Shulakong, B.A. The first thing Xiang Shu remembered in his life was, when he was 4 years old, his mother brought him along when she was personally delivering a horse at their home. At that time, he understood why it was called life. If this goes on, would there be more and more horses on the prairie? Doubtful, little Xiang Shu asked his mother. New life will be born, Xiang Yuan said in a gentle tone, old life will also depart. The wheel comes full circle, new life will not cease to appear. Depart? Asked little Xiang Shu. Mom, go where? Not long after, Xiang Yuan used her own departure as an answer to her son's question. Xiang Shu was inside the golden tent that day, flipping through the scroll written by his mother when suddenly, he heard a sound of something falling to the ground outside. Mom! Mom! Xiang Shu ran out in panic. The events that followed caught him unprepared. He only remembered his father made him wait inside the tent while the clansmen were bustling about. After a long time, he peeked out of the tent, only to see a flock of crows producing a sound that shook the entire world. The flock spread their wings and flew past the edge of XTRA01, towards the end of the sky. After his father returned to the royal tent, he washed the leftover blood from his hands. He was surrounded by the elders and leaders of all tribes. After his mother's departure, every tribe rushed in one after another, wanting to arrange a new marriage with the Tile King. The Teals weren't like the Hans, they had no obligation to abide by the customs. For them, Xiang Yuan's departure was just an insignificant, trivial matter. He didn't cry, it was only because his father, Shulakong, also didn't cry. His mother, when she was still alive, had asked him to learn from his father in every way. Whatever his father did, Xiang Shu would naturally follow. In reality, starting from the sound that had been produced from the outside of the royal tent up until now when everything had been concluded, it was merely a short span of half a day. Xiang Shu was still in a daze, he didn't understand what these matters meant to him. Amidst the confusing noise, Shulakong washed away the remaining blood left by his deceased wife's sky burial from his hands, then said one word at a time, do not continue. In the end, the prince needs a mother, an elder said. The great Chanyu also needs a queen to run and manage affairs. The 4 seas and the prairies are all the great Chanyu's land, and all of the people under the sky are all the great Chanyu's people, said another person. XTRA01 also needs a matriarch. I've already made up my mind, you don't need to say anything anymore, Shulakong said. When she was still alive, the queen always said, a lifetime, forever a pair. Although I only spent a few years with her, it's already a lifetime to me, and Konger is our evidence. From now on, this matter must not be brought up again. After a moment of silence inside the royal tent, Shulakong said again, XTRA01 will certainly have its new queen. Konger will also give you all an account in the future. And so, all the tribes inside the tent scattered, leaving only Xiang Shu and his father to sit in silence. Your mom is gone. The Tile King stroked his son's head. From now on, it's just you and me. Konger, sleep ba. Where did she go? Asked the 4-year-old little Xiang Shu warily. When will she return? In a hurry, he took a glance, but ultimately, he was only able to catch a sight of his mother that was no longer conscious before the clan members stopped him from seeing Xiang Yuan anymore. She went to a place she wanted to go, to a place she ought to go, replied the Tile King. The wind will cease to blow and the snow will thaw. In the land where peach blossoms are in full bloom, that is where we shall find our solace. There will be a day where Dad has to go too. The wheel of life comes full circle, new life will not cease to appear, that's all there is to it. After the light inside the royal tent went out, it was dark. On that dark night, Xiang Shu lay down at his usual place. Meanwhile, on the bed his mother and father used to share together, there was only his father's lone figure. His father was tall and imposing, and he was the most powerful man on the prairie, but at this time, his back seemed incomparably lonely. He heard his father's low cry in the stillness of the night, whimpering hard just like a wild animal which throat was blocked. From that day onwards, Xiang Shu didn't speak much. He read the books left by his mother in silence, and learned to tend to his father in silence. These things were the ways he could, even only by little, reconnect with his mother. He remembered his mother had mentioned about the south and Jiangnan on more than one occasion. Jiangnan, for the people of XTRA01, it was a very far place. He was still very young, too young that he couldn't ride a horse or walk to traverse the Great Wall. But one day, he would go to the south to have a look. This was like a promise between him and his mother. He held all these thoughts in his heart, and for years, he kept being taciturn. Every day, when the father and son interacted, it was like those silent shows on the stage. The clansmen wanted to go south of the Great Wall to request for a Han doctor to diagnose Xiang Shu, but Sholuwen just said, "Let him be, some people just don't like to open their mouth, more thinking and less talking, what's the big deal about it?" Sholuwen knew that there was nothing wrong with his son, he was just momentarily in a trance because he had lost his mother. He believed that his son could slowly move on. In the end everyone must experience this kind of thing. He also knew that Xiang Shu didn't completely shut his mouth. At least, when Che Lufeng came, Sholuwen saw his son speak. That time, Xiang Shu whispered something to Che Lufeng, but when Sholuwen passed by, the two children stopped talking at once. Sholuwen didn't really like the Rurans. However, the children hadn't done any wrong, and younger generations shouldn't become the object of the enmity of the previous generations. Although Sholuwen didn't want to interfere with his son's choice, he nevertheless hoped that he would be more cheerful, and so, he deliberately gave him more time with his peers. Once in a while, Xiang Shu would raise his head and look at his father, but still, he wouldn't speak. As Xiang Shu grew up, Sholuwen said in his heart that he was able to read the meaning of Xiang Shu's gaze. My son is a gentle person by nature, just like his mother. He isn't like anyone else on this prairie. Hidden beneath his cold and indifferent exterior, is a heart as vast as the blue dome that encompasses everything in this world. Because of this, he thought that he didn't give him the wrong name in the first place. Sholuwen was very satisfied with his son. At the age of 7, Xiang Shu got his first horse. It was a tribute from King Akele. Sholuwen began to teach him how to ride and shoot, as well as martial arts. Xiang Shu's level of comprehension was so high that he could master any martial arts as soon as he was taught. Sholuwen had never seen such a talent in galloping throughout the land beyond the Great Wall. Maybe he inherited it from his mother? During her life, Xiang Yuan was also a martial artist. Although her arrival in the land beyond the Great Wall was inexplicable and she had also forgotten the majority of things, she still remembered her martial arts. In a short span of a few years, she had copied down a large amount of martial arts illustrations as well as works from various schools of thought in the Central Plains based on her memory. The Tile King was afraid that his teaching would waste his son's time, so he had him study the books left behind by his mother on his own. Not long after, Xiang Shu was able to catch snow foxes and shoot down wild geese in the sky. You see, even Sholuwen had to spend no less than 6 years to get to this point. Until one night, 7-year-old Xiang Shu silently got up. He took a bow and quiver, put on his hunting boots, wore his fur coat, and went out pulling a horse. He had wrapped the horse's hooves with cloth since a long time ago. In a few days, it would be the autumn close festival. Xiang Shu had to complete his plan today. By the time of the autumn close festival, XTRA01 would hold a grand celebration. Undoubtedly, his father would be unable to escape from his responsibilities now, he was also unable to stop him. Jie! Xiang Shu said in a soft voice. He had devised this plan for no less than 3 years. Che Lufeng waited behind a tree, and once he saw Xiang Shu, he nervously showed himself. "Did you bring the stuff?" asked Xiang Shu in a small voice. Che Lufeng gave Xiang Shu a purse containing some heavy gold ingots. Xiang Shu had it tied to the horseback, then nodded to Che Lufeng. "Have you really thought about it?" Che Lufeng got on his own horse and said to Shulakong, "I'll send you off. Don't send me off too far." 7-year-old Xiang Shu was still a child. Anxiousness, excitement, many kinds of mixed emotions currently resided in him. In the dark, his voice trembled a little. "You still have to go back." Che Lufeng said, "Where are you going anyway?" "Central Plains, Jiangnan," said little Xiang Shu as he urged his horse. That legendary place seemed like a sacred land in his dream. The wind will cease to blow and the snow will thaw. In the land where peach blossoms are in full bloom, that is where we shall find our solace. Che Lufeng's lips moved, but he didn't speak. Little Xiang Shu's expression was solemn and serene, as if he had gone on a pilgrimage. It was as if, so long he could cross over the Great Wall, he would see peach blossoms dancing in the breeze and filling the whole sky, as well as peach orchards and terraces all over the place, while his mother, wearing a gentle smile on her face, stood at the side of the stream, waiting for him. 6 days by horse from here, Xiang Shu said, is the Great Wall. After crossing the Great Wall, you'll be able to go to the Central Plains. After arriving on the Central Plains, you can go all the way south once again to get to Jiangnan. Look. Xiang Shu took out a map scroll made of sheepskin, and borrowing the light of the bright, faraway moon, he looked at it carefully with Che Lufeng. "Will you even come back?" asked Che Lufeng. Xiang Shu didn't answer. After a moment, his gaze went into the distance before returning to Che Lufeng. Imitating the words from the book, he told Che Lufeng, "In the future, we will meet again." Jie. He urged his horse to speed up, disappearing when he reached the edge of the vast prairie. Che Lufeng stayed on his horse for a long time, blankly staring. After that, he changed his horse's direction and went back to Chi Le Chuan. Xiang Shu left Chi Le Chuan bringing along some rations and money. The weather was getting colder, nearing the autumn close festival, only, the mighty force that engulfed the north was already behind him. Along the way, he stopped at the crimson maple forest, made a fire, had a quick rest, then continued his journey once again. No matter day or night, as long as he had some strength, he would advance towards that wall that looked similar to an enormous dragon, extending all over the world for thousands of years. The Great Wall encircled another kind of world. That world was like a utopia, a place where people outside its encirclement would forever be unable to strive for. With each passing day he ran away, he was getting closer and closer to the land of his dream. The moment the Great Wall appeared on the horizon, Xiang Shu could hardly control his heart's excitement. Trembling, he dismounted and looked at the imposing wall in a daze. Winding for thousands of miles, it was exactly as his mother described, everlasting. Xiang Shu nearly cried. He trembled and moved forwards a few steps, kneeling on the ground. "The Great Wall," he said to himself. He knelt down and made a voluntary kowtow gesture towards the south. Just like kowtowing towards Chi Le Chuan, towards the legendary Karasha in the north, or towards the great rivers between heaven and earth, this gesture was to show his respect. Raising his head, he touched the top of his forehead and chest with his finger, then he turned over his hands so that his palms lay flat upwards. This series of gestures was the Teal's rite of courtesy that meant I offer to give all I have. He just stood there and looked for a very long time. The wind roared amidst the vast plain, and at this time, in the presence of this eternal historical relic, he actually had a rare feeling of homesickness. Although, at this time, he was still unclear of what this feeling was, instinct stopped him and made it difficult for him to move any closer. He was like a lonely traveler, and at this moment, he was the only person in this world. But all of a sudden, a voice was heard. "Don't go over there," Sholo Wen's voice rang out, you won't find what you desire." Xiang Shu turned around and found that his father's lonely figure was standing not far from him. His father left Gle Chuan and chased after him without any rest. In the end, he stopped his son, whose heart was as rebellious as a hard-to-tame horse, right before he entered the Great Wall. The Tile King, after learning about his and Che Lufeng's plan, put aside the hustle and bustle of the Autumn Close Festival and immediately went to chase him. "Your mom is already dead," Sholo Wen's heavy voice rang out once again. "The people don't want you to be broken-hearted, so they told you that she went back to the south to seek treatment." "I know," replied Xiang Shu in a calm manner, "I know all about it." The Tile King quietly looked at his son, then said little by little, "Then, for what reason do you still want to go to the south?" Xiang Shu looked away, avoiding his father's gaze. "I don't know," replied Xiang Shu. "Think it over before you go," said Sholo Wen. "Do you want me to accompany you to climb over the Great Wall and have a look?" Xiang Shu didn't respond, and Sholo Wen also didn't scold his son for his absurd act of completely throwing away his father and Gle Chuan's people behind him. Xiang Shu didn't know why, but he was a little scared. Sholo Wen said, "Let the thing inside the dream remain in the dream, ba. Conger, wait until the day you can make your dream come true, and then, go uncover it once more." Xiang Shu stood stubbornly without moving. Sholo Wen said again, "Of course, you can also cross over right now. Today is probably what the Hans always says to be the will of heaven. Dad knows that once you leave, you will unlikely to come back again. You have to think about this clearly." Xiang Shu still didn't answer. "Dad won't leave Gle Chuan," Sholo Wen said in the end, "but Dad won't stop you." Xiang Shu looked towards his father. Sholo Wen's temples had been stained with wind and frost. Finally, Xiang Shu turned his horse around and decided to follow after his father, going back home. Before leaving, as if unwilling to part, he turned his head and glanced at the Great Wall. "Have you ever crossed the Great Wall?" said Xiang Shu. Answered Sholo Wen. Xiang Shu asked, "What is it like over there?" Sholo Wen replied, "I can't say. You have to see it with your own two eyes in the future. You'll definitely go over there one day, but not now." All of a sudden, Xiang Shu asked, "Have you ever been to Jiangnan?" "I haven't," Sholo Wen said in a serene voice. "I'm the great Chanyu, I can't leave my people for too long." Xiang Shu once again looked back and saw the Great Wall gradually disappeared at the boundary of the mountain ridge. While he was still looking back, Sholo Wen had already shouted "Ji!" to urge his horse to leave, and Xiang Shu could only catch up with his father. The two of them rushed back towards Gle Chuan. On that autumn close festival, Che Lufeng and Xiang Shu had to endure a harsh beating. After the event, the two of them vowed and became Andas. At the age of 12, Xiang Shu's reputation as a martial arts genius had spread all over the prairie. He could shoot down the fastest flying objects between heaven and earth, could catch up with the king of horses that moved just like the wind, and some people even said that he could shoot down dragons in the sky. When he was 14 years old, some Xianbei bandits invaded their territory and massacred 3 Jiaox troops. Xiang Shu followed his father to the battle, and from 100 steps away, he shot dead the leader of the bandits, further increasing his fame. He was no longer the youth from back then, he had become a tall and powerful man. He was dressed in the tile leather armor and only wore a protect heart mirror, leaving his chest and lower abdomen exposed. But, he still spoke so rarely, outside towards his clansmen and his anda, he kept a very discreet and serious attitude. That day when another bandit appeared, he took a fabled saber of the Jiaox from his father's hand, then stormed deep into the mountains alone with his horse. At dusk, he was covered with the enemy's blood as he slowly walked out of the canyon, using some tree leaves to wipe the bloodstain on the saber. This war had made Sholo Kong famous, but Sholo Wen had also suffered injuries because of this war. He began to learn from his father how to handle the disputes of all the tribes. He became a substitute for the great Chanyu and wielded the golden seal. Everything under heaven listened and obeyed his orders. In his 15th year, Xiang Shu led officers and soldiers of the three tribes, Teals, Rurans, and Xiannus, to some expeditions. By 16, Xiang Shu finally repelled the Xianbais for the last time, making Qi Le Chuan's influence spread north of the Great Wall until the end of the world. The four seas and the prairies are all the great Chanyu's land, and all of the people under the sky are all the great Chanyu's people. When Fujian came to Qi Le Chuan, he expressed goodwill towards the great Chanyu and his great exploits, in order to be granted the golden conferment of Purple Scroll. However, Xiang Shu didn't give him the Purple Scroll, because, after some discussions among the tribes, their opinions were surprisingly unified. The Central Plains is unlike the former Central Plains. One day, Qi Le Chuan's blue sky will cover the area south of the Great Wall and unite the vast land, including the Qins and the Jins. At that time, Sholuwen had already run out of time. Fujian had a burning ambition, and if he got the edict, it would be more difficult to keep him in line. Not long after, Sholuwen passed away, and Xiang Shu took over the position of the Great Chanyu. Xiang Shu was faced with the same kind of unending quarrel just like before. The elders of all tribes wanted him to get married. All of a sudden, he understood how his father had felt in those days. Guowang will be away for a while, Xiang Shu said all of the sudden. At once, there was silence all over the royal tent. Everyone looked at each other in surprise. Where to? Che Lufeng asked, still at loss. Anda, you just took over as the Great Chanyu. Shi Mokan will temporarily take over the Great Chanyu's duty and will hold the Golden Seal, said Xiang Shu. I'm going to trace the whereabouts of that Han doctor. That's it, now disperse. That very night, Xiang Shu left Qi Le Chuan on his horse, just like 10 years ago. This time, he turned his head and saw the Qili's mountain range that extended forever into the distance. You're leaving again? Che Lufeng's figure emerged from under the tree. Xiang Shu looked at Che Lufeng. It had been 10 years since then, and many things had happened. This time, will you even come back? Said Che Lufeng. I don't know, replied Xiang Shu. Che Lufeng said, you're going not because of that doctor nor because of the death of your father, you just want to go to the south. I've always known, just like your father, you want to look for a Han wife. Xiang Shu didn't reply, and Che Lufeng said again, is it not good to stay here? A few years later, when the time comes, we can go together. No, said Xiang Shu. These few years, I've always felt that on the other side of the Great Wall, in that place where peach blossoms bloom abundantly, there's someone waiting for me. This premonition is getting closer and closer to me now, and I can't wait any longer. Che Lufeng said, from childhood until adulthood, you've never forgotten this all along. Xiang Shu pressed on both sides of the horse and shouted, Ji! Compared to his voice from 10 years ago that trembled with nervousness and excitement, it was different now. Everything had turned upside down. His voice had become mature and firm. The mulberry fields had turned into the azure sea several times. This time, he seemed to have understood that his fate had come and guided him to his future, and that future had been waiting for him all this time. Soon enough, he had become a tiny black dot amidst the gale in that vast plain. But just 6 days later, when he climbed over the Great Wall and saw for himself the land of his dream for the first time, he was at a loss, and even slightly unable to accept it. At the same time, he also finally understood why his father had asked him not to go any further. It was because inside the Great Wall, except that mountains were still mountains, and trees were still trees, the scenery, if compared to Qi Le Chuan's scenery, was quite different. What was once a magnificent and unattainable remnant, was now under his feet. To the south of the Great Wall, there was only a boundless land, a fierce wind that never stopped, as well as a blizzard on the hilltop that came along with the autumn. Haughty and distant, desolate and unknown. He sat on the Great Wall all night, listening to the sound of wolves coming from a faraway place. Gazing into the distance towards the southern edge of the horizon, Xiang Shu couldn't tell how he was feeling for a moment. When he looked back at where he came from, Li Chuan had completely disappeared. "Is this the south?" muttered Xiang Shu. At dawn, he led his horse and set foot into the central plains. What he saw was only burnt villages and charred corpses of the people left behind after plundering, as well as the greyish-black sky. There were no peach blossoms, no water pavilions, no black roofs, and no white walls. At last, he met his mother's people. He tried to communicate with them, but they were even more uncivilized and unreasonable than the people of Li Chuan. He killed a lot of people and was eventually imprisoned, and finally, he was taken to Xiangyang. Inside the prison without any light, the wind had ceased to blow, but the snowflake flying in from the hatchway had not thawed. He sat in the corner of his cell, watching as the crescent moon turned into a full moon, and a full moon into a crescent moon again. Time moved very slowly, and in the end, the paradise filled with peach blossoms shattered and he was left with the abyss full of blood and misery. From the beginning until the end, he refused to accept that it was just a beautiful lie told to him by his mother when she was still alive. Until he gave up all those ideas and realized that his wishful thinking was a stupid joke. But he was never afraid of death. Because, as his father had said, the wheel of life comes full circle, new life will not cease to appear, that's all there is to it. Amidst the darkness and loneliness, he felt peach blossoms flying past. It was like the last small comfort left to him by those who had already left. However, the moment he made up his mind to give up, outside the prison door, there was the noise of collision, the sound of footsteps, as well as the voice of a stranger. Alongside the fluttering peach blossoms, a ray of light came in, and under its great radiance, innumerable shattered dreams were awakened, mended, and healed. "Open the door," said Chen Xing. End chapter. Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 89. Reunion. 4th year of Taiyuan period. 1st day of the 2nd lunar month. Xiangyang. The dungeon. Dungeon, dungeon, dungeon. Zhu Su's voice seemed to turn into an echo in his ears. Chen Xing suddenly tore off his blindfold and turned around in disbelief, just to be met with Zhuxu's puzzled gaze. He was pretending to be blind. The registrar was immediately stirred up as he shouted. "A pretender! A liar!" Chen Xing swirled around and rushed into the depths of the dungeon. At the same time, from inside the void, a glowing butterfly flew out. Flapping its wings, it went straight into the darkness. "Xiang Shu, Xiang Shu! Are you in there?" Chen Xing walked staggeringly forward, nearly tripping and falling. That butterfly, however, lightly flew ahead of him, towards the figure in the darkness before disappearing. Chen Xing scrambled and slipped, he fell down on his knees and slid over, his body practically eating dirt. Xiang Shu was motionless, he was lying on his side on the ground, completely still. Chen Xing's eyes were brimming with tears of joy. He let out a scream full of emotions and tightly embraced Xiang Shu. Everyone. After the period it took for an incense stick to burn. In the governor manor, there was another round of quarreling regarding Chen Xing's identity. Everyone once more spoke up one after another that this young man's purpose in coming here was extremely suspicious, and that he must be thoroughly investigated. An official document from the Ministry of Appointment, issued by Xian himself, can't be forged. "What do you want me?" Zhu Su's voice abruptly stopped. He was stupefied and thought out loud, why does it seem like I've said the exact same words somewhere before? Everyone suddenly got a feeling that this situation had indeed happened before once. Moments later, the diplomat opened his mouth. "Darren, this young man must have come for that death row prisoner. He's being deliberately mystifying, scamming people by calling himself that so-called exorcist. There is something very strange about the origin of that death row inmate." Doubt was plastered all over Zhu Su's face, and he became lost in his thoughts. Governor Manor, guest room. Chen Xing was embracing Xiang Shu. At first, he was so moved he couldn't stop himself from crying out loud, but after a moment, he just laughed and laughed. After bringing back the man, he didn't do anything at all, he just hugged Xiang Shu's upper body in his bosom, both crying and laughing. He and Xiang Shu were practically bawling into each other's arms. Xiang Shu! How could you be like that? Chen Xing felt incomparably sad when he recalled that last scene he saw regarding the Dinghai pearl. He once again couldn't help but look at Xiang Shu and sobbed hard. Why didn't you tell me from the beginning? The shattered Dinghai pearl, the light aura filling the entire sky, the revival of all magic, the rotating wheel of cause and effect. In just a short moment, Chen Xing had recalled countless scenes before their deaths. He immediately pinpointed that at the very last moment, they had gone back to 3 years ago. This time, we're definitely going to succeed. Chen Xing told Xiang Shu. Definitely. I won't ever leave you anymore. Xiang Shu. Xiang Shu's eyes were tightly shut. In the dungeon, he had opened them for a short time and briefly returned to clarity, although he had fallen into a coma again not a moment later. Although, Chen Xing still didn't understand the specific details of the event at that last moment. Perhaps, it's because if Xiang Shu dies, the Dinghai pearl will shatter. So, in order to protect him, they were sent back to the past? It doesn't matter, it's not like it'll be too late to ask again after Xiang Shu has recovered. He must have used up all of the mana in his body in order to alter their fate. Oh, right. Chen Xing remembered and said, take the medicine, you need to take it first. Chen Xing had almost forgotten that Xiang Shu was on his deathbed the first time they met, only managing to gradually recover thanks to the last pill handed over to him by his master. After taking the medicine, he also hadn't been able to speak or move for 6 shishan afterward. Chen Xing held the medicine in his mouth and fed it to Xiang Shu. Afterward, he touched his forehead while his eyes were fixed on Xiang Shu's lips. This time it's my turn to follow you closely to the point we'll not even be a kun apart, Chen Xing softly said. Even if we are to run to the ends of the earth, even if I am to die tomorrow, don't you ever think of abandoning me either. Maybe, it was a blessing from heaven, a miracle had happened and actually returned them to the first day they had met each other. At this time, Xiang Shu was indeed too thin to the point it made Chen Xing so distressed for him. Feeling sad yet also glad at the same time, he recalled that in their final moments, Xiang Shu had also been holding him in his embrace like this. Furthermore, he had also lowered his head and kissed him. All of a sudden, that feeling in his heart burned so fiercely until it exploded because he wasn't able to contain it any longer. Xiang Shu's cold body gradually warmed up, and his lips turned moist, regaining their original color. Chen Xing held Xiang Shu in his arms and lowered his head a little. He couldn't help but want to take advantage of him while he was still unconscious to kiss him on the lips. Just kiss him, Chen Xing said to himself in his heart. He won't wake up anyway, so just give it a go and kiss him. But Xiang Shu did wake up and opened his eyes. Xiang Shu. The bedroom door wasn't closed. Zhu Su had personally come over to observe Chen Xing, only to catch a sight of Chen Xing hugging that currently immobilized prisoner who had just been rescued from death row and lowering his head to kiss him. He was too embarrassed to say anything at this moment. Zhu Su. Chen Xing awkwardly coughed at once. He doubtfully looked at Zhu Su. Zhu Su seemed to have forgotten everything. Could it be that when they returned to 3 years ago, the only person who actually remembered the whole thing was him? Zhu Darren, I still have work to do. Chen Xing laid Xiang Shu flat, closed the door, and drove him away. You come back later, ba. Though I guess you also won't be free later, so goodbye ah. Guards. Zhu Su angrily roared. Take this con man downstairs and lock him up for now. Wait. Chen Xing thought in his heart, why is it different from the last time ah, before rushing to say, let me explain. Right. I'll explain now. However, the men had already broken into the room and flanked Chen Xing as they dragged him away, leaving Xiang Shu lying all alone on the bed. Xiang Shu. The Qin army is going to attack the city tonight. Chen Xing, who was dragged, yelled on the ground. Zhu Daran. When I sneaked into Xiangyang, I spied on important military intelligence. Hear me out. Zhu Su halted his step, turned his head, and looked at Chen Xing. After another period of incense passed, Chen Xing said while standing on the terrace of the Governor Manor, "Listen to me. Do not, ever, touch Xiang Shu, his identity is extremely important." Perching on the eaves of the manor, was a red-colored bird with flames engulfing its whole body. Tone cold, Zhu Su said, "I just knew you were up to something. Go on, one wrong word, and both of your heads will fall to the ground. Even if the city is going to fall tonight, I'm still going to kill you first." The snow fell without stopping, and Zhu Su stood on the third-floor balcony of the Governor Manor as he overlooked the whole city of Xiangyang, which was filled with lights, from above. Chen Xing took a deep breath. Until this moment, he still didn't dare to actually accept the fact that he had really returned to the past. One moment, he felt his heart bursting with joy, though at the same time, he also felt as if some parts were not right, that there was still something amiss. He felt as if he was inside of a dream, laughing from time to time, yet in the next moment, feeling heavy. However, he was already too busy to continue thinking about it. He must first resolve the trouble in front of him. What to say, any? Chen Xing thought about this and that before continuing. It's better to make a long story short, ba. Zhu Daran, to tell you the truth, I am indeed an exorcist who came here because 300 years ago, all of the magic. Once he reached that point, Chen Xing suddenly realized something. At this time, was he still in the period of silence of all magic? Or had the magic all recovered already? Did the spiritual qi of heaven and earth still exist at this moment? I feel it. The spiritual qi is currently circulating. The magic has all returned. Zhu Su. Turning around, Zhu Su looked at Chen Xing with an imposing gaze as he slowly unsheathed his sword. He actually wanted to hack him to death on the spot. Don't be rash. Chen Xing immediately said as his mind kept whirling, how exactly did I fool this guy last time? Damn, I was too pumped up, I actually can't remember. Oh, right. Chen Xing resumed his serious, world expert kind of appearance as he continued, Daran, do you believe that there are Yaoguais and immortals in this world? If I say I have mana, will you believe it? Yeah, this won't work, I can't help it. I'm so happy. Zhu Daran. Long time no see ah. All magic has recovered. Chua and whatever can all go to hell ba. Every dog has its day, and it's finally my time to be in business law. Chen Xing really didn't know who to share the happiness inside his heart with, and he just wanted to hold Zhu Su while venting to him for a good while. Zhu Su. Zhu Su roared in anger, guards. I'll prove it. Chen Xing took a deep breath before continuing, once you see it, if you still don't believe it, I'll stay put, and you can just arrest me then. Zhu Su, because of Chen Xing, had already become so angry that his whole body was trembling. However, Chen Xing just earnestly smiled as he spoke, I know what you did earlier today was only to stabilize the morale of the army, and that inside your heart, there was once a lamp. Zhu Su's complexion suddenly changed. Why do I feel a bit of déjà vu at this remark? He looked at Chen Xing, full of attention, and his mood gradually stabilized. He couldn't help but say, wait, I don't know why, but I suddenly feel as if we've known each other. Chen Xing replied right away, that's correct. Although you will surrender the city to them in a moment, I believe that deep inside your heart, you are still loyal to the great Jin. At this remark, Zhu Su immediately exploded, the city of Xiangyang still hasn't been breached, any. Are you finally showing your true colors, spy? No. Chen Xing then rolled up his right sleeve before replying, "Spy? I'll show it to you." As he said that, Chen Xing raised his right hand and told Zhu Su in an incredibly sincere manner, "Darren. Please. Look." And then, Chen Xing channeled his energy in an attempt to invoke the heart lamp. In a split second following that, on the third-floor balcony of the Governor Manor, the heart lamp suddenly went rampant under the abundance of spiritual qi of heaven and earth. It erupted a flash of light so bright it could split heaven and earth apart. Chen Xing and Zhu Su simultaneously shouted in pain. Zhu Su wildly roared, "My eyes!" Chen Xing shrieked out, "What's happening? I'm blind!" Zhu Su, "Assassin! Someone! There's an assassin!" Chen Xing set off the heart lamp, and it complied. Actually, in these past 300 years of the silence of all magic, during the time when all of the spiritual qi had been exhausted, it was a given that magical arts had been less effective by half, while heart mantras used to cast spells had required about 1.5 times power than usual. It was just, he hadn't expected that the heart lamp's power would strengthen under the influence of the spiritual qi. It appeared similar to a lightning bolt with no sound, blooming in some 10 folds more intensity than normal and erupting right in front of their faces currently facing each other. That flash of the heart lamp had simultaneously blinded them for a moment. Before Chen Xing's eyes, there was only a vast expanse of whiteness. Before it once again dimmed in an instant and turned pitch black, there were seemingly countless lights and shadows flashing before him in a chaotic mess. With that one flash of the heart lamp, the fiery red bird perching on the outside of the Governor Manor spread its wings and flew away. Under Zhu Su's loud shout, a diplomat rushed in a flurry with a register in his hands, startled as he spoke, "Darren! Are you both all right?" Chen Xing shouted, "Assassin, where? Catch the assassin!" Zhu Su originally thought that Chen Xing would have seized an opportunity to assassinate himself, so he had shouted assassin, but Chen Xing just thought there was an assassin the moment he turned blind. For a moment, the two just looked everywhere possible in confusion, their hands groping all over the place before they finally hugged each other. After a good while, the soldiers all came up and saw that there was no assassin. Chen Xing and Zhu Su also finally regained their sight. They looked around while gasping for breath. Zhu Su was frightened and still in doubt as he looked at Chen Xing. Chen Xing secretly thought, all magic has indeed recovered. Did I use a bit too much strength and overdo it? So, that's it, Chen Xing said. I'm not lying to you, see? I can do magic. Chen Xing had barely lifted his hand when Zhu Su suddenly shouted in horror, "Keep your hand down. You almost blinded me just now. Your magic, what can that light do?" Chen Xing replied, "Air, seems like it can't do anything. How come even though all magic has returned, I can only emit some light?" "Ah, right. Fire, come. Why doesn't it work? Maybe the spell and the heart lamp repel one another." Chen Xing snapped his fingers several times while mouthing the 5 elements mantra, yet until the end, he wasn't able to summon out any magic. Chen Xing's mind was currently full of Xiangshu. He patiently said, "Forget it. Anyway, as you can see, I am indeed an exorcist who came here to find my protector, I'm not deceiving you. Now, since I've already found him, I'll..." Zhu Su interrupted, "You and your protector will help me defend the city." Chen Xing replied, "I'll need to take him away. I'm very busy. You continue to work hard ba, see you later in Shaoyang." "Wait." Zhu Su hurried to chase after Chen Xing. "Exorcist. I suddenly have an idea. You can stand at the city gate tower on my behalf later and use that light to blind the enemy's eyes." "No time." Chen Xing was returning to the room at a rapid pace and shouted. "Moreover, Zhudaran, the distance is too far, you really think it'll be useful ma? The other party is going to attack the city, and here you are, turning on lanterns for them any. Are you afraid the enemy troops will not be able to find their way in the dark?" That idea of Zhu Su's, at a short range, that skill would indeed be useful. However, if the enemy troops were far away, it would be tantamount to lighting things up for them. He was trying to be clever yet got egg all over his face instead. He hurriedly said, "Then you'll." Chen Xing turned his head and replied, "I'll tell you something. They'll arrive soon. Xiang Yang will definitely not be able to hold against it today. But Murong Choi and the rest, after they enter the city, they'll use this place, the Governor Manor, as their base of operation. You'd better set up an ambush at once, ba. Maybe you could change the course of events." Zhu Su was startled, and right at this moment, a shout came from the outside. "The Qin army is attacking the city. The city has been broken through." Zhu Su was once again unable to deal with Chen Xing. He turned around in an instant and rushed to the main hall. Murong Chui led the army and began to attack the city. Fireballs were filling the entire sky, looking just like shooting stars. Chen Xing rushed back to the bedroom and saw that Xiang Shu was still lying on the bed. When he heard the sound, he turned his eyes with great effort to look at him. "We must quickly run." Chen Xing bundled Xiang Shu in a blanket before continuing, "Don't worry ba, we'll manage to escape." Suddenly, Chen Xing once again recalled that soon, the Qin army would come in, and he must first pretend to hang himself. So Chen Xing hurriedly did according to what he had once done in the past situation. He stuffed the already bundled Xiang Shu under the bed before taking off the bed sheet and rolled it into a made-up rope. He then threw it over the beam and tied a knot before starting to hang himself. Xiang Shu looked at Chen Xing from under the bed. "Xiang Shu." Chen Xing was still in the middle of his preparation when the sound of a door being broken down was heard, and a Qin soldier rushed inside with swords in his hands. Chen Xing absolutely didn't expect that they would actually come so soon. He and that Qin soldier immediately looked at each other. That soldier only thought that this scholar was just about to hang himself, and for a moment, he also didn't know whether he should kill him with his weapon or not. What to do? In this deadlock, Chen Xing's mind whirled as fast as lightning. What went wrong? Why am I out of luck this time around? It's over. You don't mean I'm going to die in this place, ba? It would seem that right after that soldier lifted his sword and rushed at him, Chen Xing's small life would come to an end under such circumstances. Risk it all and fight it, ba? Chen Xing's mind was in a jumble. In a short, twinkling moment, Chen Xing bent himself and jumped over the short table, loudly shouting as he pounced on that Qin soldier. The soldier was immediately caught off guard. He didn't expect the man who was just about to hang himself would go crazy a moment later. He subconsciously took a step back, but Chen Xing managed to hug him on the waist. He tackled him down and made him fall to the ground. "Xiang Shu!" The soldier grabbed his sword and rained curses at him. Chen Xing, however, was frantically trying to leave the room for fear that the soldier would discover Xiang Shu hidden under the bed while shouting, "Come and get me ah! You come and get me ah!" Then as if he had smeared oil on the solace of his feet, he ran away. Sure enough, that soldier was aggroed away and readied his bow whilst still raining curses, knocking the arrow in place and starting to open fire. Chen Xing just wanted to lead him to the main hall of the Governor Manor. If Zhu Su still hadn't left, he would naturally kill the man. It was just, as he ran through the winding corridor, he saw two Qin soldiers aggressively charge at him, making him immediately turn around and flee in a random direction in a panic. That previous Qin soldier joined up with the latter ones and together, the three of them chased after Chen Xing. Chen Xing's heart had already felt as if it was about to jump out. He ran into the hallway and suddenly turned around. Spreading out both of his hands, he invoked the heart lamp while closing his eyes at the same time. "Take this!" Chen Xing shouted. Another spark of light that shook both heaven and earth flashed, making the three Qin soldiers shriek miserably at once. Chen Xing felt inspired. He could rely on this method when they were going to escape later. He quickly took advantage while they were still down to go back to carry Xiang Shu away. And so, Chen Xing went out. But, he couldn't see any carts at all. He snarled, Where's the cart from the first time? The horse. Looking from under the bed, Xiang Shu saw Chen Xing running in from the courtyard outside again. However, just as he was about to cross the door, the 3 Qin soldiers rushed in once more. Based on Xiang Shu's field of vision from his location under the bed, there was an open door in front of him, and the outer side of the door was like a moving painting that had the following scene. Chen Xing disappeared to the left side, although he reappeared soon afterwards, wielding a tree net he got out of nowhere in his right hand while his left hand dangling back and forth. He was so nervous and wanted to draw them closer first before raising his hand again. The 3 Qin soldiers then appeared on the right side with a sword in each of their hands. They dared not get too close to Chen Xing, and both sides entered a stalemate once more. Chen Xing thought in his heart, first let's use the net to strike that man on the head to hook him over, and then use his sword to hold him hostage by placing it over his neck. That might work. Also, later when using the heart lamp, must not forget to close my eyes. The leader of the Qin soldiers had obviously begun to take Chen Xing seriously. They couldn't lower their guards just because he looked like a scholar. He raised his hand and gave the order, but just as the 3 men were about to charge and surround Chen Xing, from the top of the wall behind them, a man suddenly appeared. Chen Xing could only see that man bent over and pulled out his long saber. He made a circle, and a white light flashed. Chen Xing immediately cried out, "Xiang Shu!" From Xiang Shu's field of vision, blood splattered all around, and Chen Xing suddenly retreated back. On the other side of the scene, a handsome wanderer with a height of 9 chi and wearing a bamboo hat showed up, and the 3 Qin soldiers fell down at the same time. That wanderer, in a free and easy manner, took off his hat and sized Chen Xing up. Feng Dage. Chen Xing sprang to his feet and hugged Feng Qunjun, glomping on his body. "Good thing I managed to catch up," Feng Qunjun said. "I heard you mention before that you were in Xiangyang on this day." "Tianqi, Tianqi." Feng Qunjun hugged Chen Xing, rubbing him like his life depended on it. The 2 people were both crying and laughing for a while. He and Feng Qunjun were practically bawling into each other's arms. Xiang Shu. End chapter.